Let's talk about performance conversations. Yeah, I know. For a lot of us, that phrase alone is enough to make you want to hide under your desk. But what if those meetings didn't have to be a chore? What if they could be the single most powerful tool you have for real growth? Well, today, we're going to look at how two really simple frameworks can completely change the game. Seriously, think about it for a second. The last performance review you were in, did it actually lead to anything different? Or did it feel like you were just going through the motions, with a lot of talk that didn't really go anywhere? That's the exact problem we're diving into. The huge gap between talking about getting better and actually making it happen.
So let's paint a picture. It's a classic situation. You've got an employee, their performance is at 92%, and the target is 95%. Now, it's not a massive gap, right? But it's there, and it's not going away. The old school way of handling this would be to just say, hey, you need to hit 95%. But we all know that's not a plan. That's just an order.
And this is where the big shift happens. The whole point isn't just to manage the numbers on a spreadsheet. It's to help the employee build their own plan, to take ownership of their own growth. This is that magic moment where a manager stops being a boss and starts being a coach. It all comes down to that one word: ownership.
Okay, so here's our game plan for today. We'll start with the challenge itself. Then we'll walk through a framework called GROW to see how to structure the conversation. We're going to hit a really critical turning point, that bridge from what to how, and then bring in the SMART framework to make the plan stick. And finally, we'll talk about why this whole approach is such a game changer.
All right, so how do we even begin to have a better conversation? Well, we start by giving it a structure. And for that, we're going to use a framework called GROW.
GROW sounds simple, and it is, but it is incredibly powerful. It just stands for goal, reality, options, and way forward. Think of it like a roadmap that keeps the conversation on track and makes sure you actually get somewhere productive.
So everything kicks off with G for goal. And just look at how the manager frames this. It's not an attack, it's a shared mission. Right from the get-go, they're both on the same team with the same objective. Figure out how to get from 92% to 95%. Everybody's aligned.
Then we move to R for reality. And listen to this question. It's open-ended. The manager isn't saying, here's what I think you're doing wrong. They're asking, what do you think is going on? That one little shift invites honesty instead of defensiveness. It's a total game changer.
And what happens? The employee identifies the real issues themselves. They know they're rushing or missing things. They just needed the space to say it out loud. And when the diagnosis comes from the person who actually has to make the change, well, that's half the battle right there.
Now we're at O for options. And again, notice the manager holds back. The temptation to just jump in with a list of solutions is huge, right? But instead, they toss the ball right back into the employee's court. This empowers them to start thinking like a problem solver. And would you look at that? The employee has great ideas. A checklist, a better tracking system, reviewing feedback. The answers were there all along. The GROW model just helped bring them to the surface.
Okay, this next part is so important. This is the moment where most performance talks fall apart. We figured out the what, but now we have to cross this really critical bridge to get to the how. This is about turning good intentions into actual, consistent action.
And that leads to this perfect question from the employee. Okay, I get it, but how do I actually do this every day? This is a golden moment. They're not just agreeing to a vague idea, they're asking for a real system to make it happen. They're ready to build a plan.
And the perfect tool to answer that how question is our second framework, making the plan SMART. This is how you build that final step in GROW, the way forward.
Now, you've probably heard of SMART goals. It's a classic for a reason. It's a system for turning fuzzy ideas into rock-solid commitments by making them specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. It's like an instruction manual for changing your behavior. So let's see how this works in practice. The manager helps the employee take that first idea, use a checklist, and run it through the SMART filter. And just look at the difference. It's not just use a checklist anymore. Now it's a specific 6-point checklist with a measurable goal of 0 misses and a clear deadline to review it. That's not a suggestion. That's a real commitment.
Okay, let's do the next one. The idea was to review QA comments. That's a good idea, but how do you make sure it actually happens?
You make it SMART. Now it's specific. Find patterns. And it's scheduled right into the week, Tuesday and Friday, for 20 minutes. It becomes a non-negotiable part of the routine. And when something's in your calendar, it gets done. And for that last piece of the puzzle, those delayed follow-ups, the solution here is to create a dedicated time block. The SMART plan is to set aside 15 minutes every single day,
right after the busiest part of the day, just to clear the queue. It's specific, it's daily, and it's totally actionable.
So, we did it. We have a complete, concrete plan built entirely through coaching. But what's the secret sauce? Why is this so much more powerful than the old way of doing things?
Well, the proof is right here. The manager asks, on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you that you can do this? And the answer? A 9. A 9 out of 10. That's because this isn't some plan that was forced on them. It's their plan. They built it. Of course they're confident in it. And that really gets to the heart of it all. The old way is telling. The manager provides the answers and owns the solution. This new way is coaching. The employee creates the plan, and you guessed it, owns the outcome. That sense of ownership is the absolute key to making change that actually lasts.
So when you put the structure of grow together with the clarity of smart, you get something really special. You get a conversation that stops looking backward at what went wrong and starts building a clear path for what's going to go right. So the only question left to ask is, what conversation are you going to transform first?